Okay, today we're going to do a really quick lesson on getting climate indices into RStudio. So here I've got up the NOAA webpage with a list of all the monthly and ocean climate indices. So this is a really great webpage. There's a ton of them to look at in here. I suggest that you read some of these papers for interesting indexes you might be interested in. You might want to take a look at some of the caveats here. They have a caveats page, which is important to say there are other pages that might have indices that are a little longer, a little shorter. And so you can actually even see, here's an example here of one NAO, and here's another one from CRU, which might be a little bit longer. So lots of agencies around the world are putting these out, and this is just a nice handy landing page to try and find some of them. So there's plenty of interest in this. We're just going to focus today on the NAO, which is the North Atlantic Oscillation from the NOAA Climate Prediction Center, and you can click on this, and you're going to see a series of text here with date on the side, and then you're going to have 12 columns, and that represents the 12 months of the year. So this is data since 1948 all the way down to 2019. You can see the missing data is minus 99.90, but we're going to go ahead and teach you how to load this in. So the important thing is that we need to read in this text file off of the internet. So we're going to copy that, and then we're going to come over here to RStudio, and we'll just paste this in here for now, and we'll give us a hint. So this is reading in NOAA Climate Index for NAO. Okay, what are we going to do in here? Well, let's just make an object called NAO, and we're going to do a read table of this web page. So when we do this, when we do it at first it's going to say it's going to give us an error because line 1 didn't have 13 elements. And if you go ahead and take a look at the page, you can see, oh, this first one's a little wonky. In fact, we might skip the first 2 lines since there's no data here. So we're going to come in here and just add an argument to say skip equals 3. It's going to skip the first 3 lines, this little header line with the start and end date, and then these first 2 lines since we don't have any data here. Let's go ahead and do that. When you run that, you'll probably get another error. Line 71 didn't have 13 elements, and so you can take a look down here. It's saying, hey, I was expecting 12 months and a date column, that's 13. We don't have that. On line 71, I've got a problem. So let's go ahead and just read a total of, you can do 69 lines. So if we do this again one more time. All right, type NAO, and you'll see we've got it down to the end of 2018, starting at 1950. Okay, all right, so what are we going to do with this now? Well, we have NAO. The first thing you'll notice is the date is over here, so we're going to make an object called NAO year is going to be NAO column 1. So that is the year. But we have to add dates now to these things. So again, dealing with dates is always the hardest part. But our dates, right? So our first column is our year, but then we have all these months that we have to append to each one of these values. So we're going to go ahead and make a date vector. So we're going to take AO underscore date is going to equal paste. We're going to repeat the NAO year now. And we're going to repeat this, each element, 12 times. And what does that do? If I just run this here, you'll see it's just repeating each year 12 times because we're going to stick a month onto each one of that. So I'm going to take a vector of repeating years, each one 12 times, and I'm going to paste onto that a dash, a 1 through 12, another dash, and a 1. Right. So if we look at NAO date, you'll see what we get here. All right, so here is our every year, right? 1950. Here is now January, February, March, April, May, and it's the first of every month, all the way through the 12th, and we start again. So what did this thing do? It just repeated each year 12 times, and then it pasted a vector of 1 to 12 to each one of those sets of 12s, and then a dash, and then a 1 to each one of these. Okay, now we're going to use a function called lubricate. If you don't have that, you can install it by coming up here, go to Tools, Install Packages, lubricate. Make sure you click Install Dependencies. Okay. What are we going to do with that? Now we're going to turn it into our appropriate. We're going to use a function called YMD. And see if I just run the function alone, you'll see that it now turns this into a proper time, with all the extra zeros and a time zone, UTC, and we're just going to call this NAO date. Right. Okay, so we have our date, but we still have a NAO. It's like in this cube like this, right? So now we have a date value for every one of these, but we got to make this into one long vector of values. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and chop off. Let's go ahead and make a NAO index object, and that's just going to be NAO everything except, this is what this -1 means, except the first column. So we're just going to chop off this year column here because we already used it to make our date. So here's our NAO end. So there's our cubes. We just have to take that and turn that into a vector of numbers. The vector of numbers. And to do that, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to, so we're going to turn it on its side. We're going to use a function called transpose. You'll see why we're doing this in a minute. Turn the whole thing on its side. Oops, this should be NAO, underscore end. Turn the whole thing on its side. So now we've got the first element here, the second one, the third one, the fourth one here. Before they were going around the top, but now they're going down. So here is 12. This is the first 12 readings, and then the next 12 readings. So when we run this function, the concatenate function, it should now turn it into one long vector with these 3 in the first. There we go. There they are, 1, 2, 3, 0.56, 0.01, negative 0.78. And so I'm just going to replace this NAO. And so all I've done is ripped it out of the matrix. So we can just run it from the beginning if you'd like, ripped it out of the matrix, put it into, now we can just call this data. I'm going to make this a data frame where date equals our NAO date, and our NAO index is going to equal our NAO. So I'm just creating a list here, or a data frame. Sometimes they're nice to use. And so with the head of data, you can see we've got our date and our NAO. And what's nice is we can just plot this thing. Plot data xlab equals date. Actually, it might just come up. Plot data. There it is. A bunch of points. We can make it a line. There's our North Atlantic oscillation moving up and down through the years. Okay, this is really helpful and useful. This is the same basic type of format, time series format that you're going to get from NOAA, so these same sorts of operations should work for whatever index you choose. Thank you.